So here we are again. I've got a question for you. Can you prove that God does not exist? Now, that may seem like a simple matter to you, but consider this. Is there such a thing as a white rock with black dots? I don't know. I've never seen one. Have you? Have you been around the world? Have you been across the nation, around the world? How do you know there is no white rock with black dots? Maybe no one has ever found one. But have you been to outer space and to planets in other galaxies? You see, you don't know there's no such thing as a white rock with black dots because you don't have universal knowledge. So it is. Just because you haven't seen God doesn't mean he doesn't exist. You see, he could be out there someplace and you've just never met him. He could be, well, where is his throne? Where is heaven? Well, it's not here for sure. Okay, so now that we've established that you can't prove that God does not exist simply because you don't have universal knowledge. By the way, this argument that I just used comes from, I got that from Ravi Zacharias, an illustration he used. And it's a very basic principle of logic. But let's just consider something for a minute. Science. What is science? Science is the study of that which exists, isn't it? What's cultish religion? A cultish religion is that which insists on a belief system, regardless of evidence otherwise. If God exists, if he exists, then science would be the study of God, plus all the things that he has made. And a cultish religion would be that which insists on an alternate theory, regardless of the evidence. And if atheism and the theory of evolution is mandated by the government with a refusal to study the other option, that is, the option that there is a God, such as Noah's flood and creation and the crossing of Israelites through the Red Sea from Egypt, these fantastic stories. If the government refuses these types of investigations, then they are actually, remember this is if God exists, then they are actually establishing a form of religion which is unconstitutional. Very basic conclusion that you can come to. And a scientist, a true scientist, will investigate all possible theories for a given phenomenon. For instance, the flood, layers, sediment layers in the rocks, fossils, seagoing fossils in the sediments of the rocks. Noah's flood? I don't know, or do you know? Are they investigating this? Are they corroborating it? Are they debunking it? Are they studying it? You see, this is the whole thing. A scientist will investigate all possibilities. Sediment layers they attribute to erosion. Well, the last erosion I checked, it did not create layers, it created gullies and washouts. a lot of wave action would create sediments. But let's not go there for now. Somebody that refuses to study an alternate explanation, regardless of the evidence, insisting on his own way, that would be a religious bigot, wouldn't it? I don't want to use that strong language, but I don't know any other term that would explain the attitude of a person refusing to investigate all possible explanations of the world we have around us. And if you refuse the flood, if you refuse creation, if you refuse the various other things that's documented in the Bible, even the refusal to study the Bible on the matter, that's religious bigotry. Why would I say that? Well, it's very simple. Because remember, science studies all possible theories, investigates every explanation. By the way, in case you're not familiar with how atheism got started, religion has been and the assumption of the existence of God has been ever since creation, 6,000 years, a little less than 6,000 years, until atheism came along. Well, where did atheism come from? Well, atheism came from the era of the French Revolution in the late 1700s. And what happened was the church was the established religion of the day. They controlled the world, the Western world, the Middle East and the Tigris, Euphrates basin and further west, northern Africa, and so they controlled all of this. They controlled kings, and they mandated what people believed and thought. They refused to let people have the Bible so they could investigate the truths of the Bible on their own. They insisted that they were the only ones capable of determining what the Bible said and what it meant. So they didn't let the people have it. And it got so bad that they would kill people if they had a Bible. But where the real division came, the church refused to let the scientists discover the world around them. They opposed a round world. They opposed the sun being the center of our orbital system, and they opposed the earth turning on its axis. And these were all things being discovered and mathematically proven. And the scientists knew it had to be this way, yet the church insisted that they could not disagree with the church fathers, so to speak. They actually killed scientists because they disagreed with the church. Well, science said, wait a minute, the church is wrong, clearly wrong. The church claimed to be the expositors, the explainers of the Bible. So because the church claimed biblical authority, science threw out not only the church, but the Bible, and established what they call the Age of Reason. And it's been a separate entity ever since. But the fact of the matter is this: the Bible did not refute modern science. In fact, the Bible has some really good contributions to modern science. It's in the Bible where we get things like washing your hands, burying your human waste, washing in clean water and not recycled. Well, the water down, wash upstream, and No, wash downstream and get your drinking water upstream. All this stuff's in the Bible. The health laws are in the Bible. The Bible's full of health laws. And it's not an insignificant matter that the Bible says don't eat pigs. They didn't have microscopes. God simply told the people it's unclean. Well, pigs aren't the only one, but today you can single that out and pretty much affect everybody's attitude on the subject. People think that the laws of clean and unclean animals are ceremonial laws. It has nothing to do with the ceremonies. It has to do with health laws. So the Bible, you can just camp out. You can put science on the Bible. The Bible is a firm foundation for science, the study of the world around us, and is way out ahead of things, thousands of years ahead of time. And when scientists were discovering that you needed to wash your hands and be clean and drink plenty of good water, not contaminated water, this was new. Well, it wasn't new in the Bible. So the point I'm trying to make is this. When the age of reason and atheism threw the Bible out, they were throwing it out based on the false claims of a false religion. So they threw out the established religion, they threw out the Bible, and decided they were going to go it alone. It's just what we can discover for ourselves. That's truth. Well, the unfortunate part about it is they threw out the basis of truth with it. And that's how atheism came about. That's how science devoid of God came about. But remember that the whole proposition of this complete discussion was if God exists, then the study of God is indeed true science. And that's all I'm saying. Open the mind. They have refused to let the public schools investigate Bible, investigate the possibility of God. And the fact is, if God can be shown to exist, and the Bible can be shown to be the word of the living God, then the study of the Bible is every bit a part of the study of true science. That's all I wanted to say. I'd like to discuss one of these days, I'd like to discuss the question, can God be put in a test tube? Believe it or not, I think I have several test tubes that God can be put to the test and proven. I don't like to use that word proven because proof is different than evidence. God does not prove himself. Did you know that? He provides evidence, but he doesn't prove. And I think that's a fascinating concept. Let me just close our discussion with this little observation. There's an ancient Chinese book called The Art of War. And one of the components in there, one of the principles of successful warfare is don't trap your opponent. Do not put your opponent in a position of survival mode because he'll fight more fierce. If you can get him on the run, you've pretty much won the project. So when you apply this to Bible study and Bible proofs, people have their proof text, but there's always somebody else with a text, Bible text that says something different. And I used to think, man, why doesn't God just say it plainly? Well, there's a reason he doesn't. Number one, he doesn't prove beyond the ability to doubt. He provides sufficient evidence to make an intelligent decision on the matter, but he doesn't prove it beyond all incontrovertibility. In other words, he doesn't prove anything so thoroughly and firmly that it's impossible to disagree with him. Because Love is based on freedom. He provides freedom of thought. So, you want to be a true scientist? Investigate God. Check it out. We don't have time to keep going into more detail on this, but I would invite you to investigate God. In fact, I'm going to give you this. If you're a scientist and you're open-minded, and this little discussion has led you to realize that it's not non-science to investigate the existence of God, I'm going to invite you to do this. You don't have to be afraid of the Bible. As soon as you mention the Bible, some people throw up their hands and run. But wait a minute. If this is just a mystical book that is full of myths and superstition, what have you got to be afraid of? I mean, if you're going to watch Alice in Wonderland and some of these other fairy tales, why would you be afraid to look at the Bible? Here's what I would propose you do. Pray. And you say, wait a minute, but that means, well, what about, wait a minute. If God doesn't exist, it's just a futile exercise, right? But if he does exist, you're talking to a being that exists. And if he's as powerful and as loving and as interested in your affairs as the Bible claims he is, what have you got to lose? In fact, I would recommend this. Tell him, all right, they say to try you out. So I'm just going to try you out. I'm going to pray, if you exist, would you please talk to me? I'm going to open this with this Bible with the added attitude of, all right, God, do you have something to say to me? I'm listening. And it is highly recommended that you start with the book of John. That's in the New Testament, further back in the Bible. And that you check that out. Just read it. He makes some claims in there. He tries to give evidence that Jesus is indeed the Christ, the Son of the living God, the Messiah. So I invite you to look at that. There was another reason why God seems to be so elusive on some topics, and that is this. God is infinite. How does an infinite God, the one who created human language, how does the infinite God explain himself to people? Over here he says, and I'm going to use this illustration, I've used it before, but over here he says, he created Adam in his image, in his likeness. Well, if you just take that at face value, that means he created Adam with a human body that looked like God's body. But over here he says, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit. So you have people over here saying, well, God doesn't have a body, he has a spirit. And you have people over here saying, no, he's got a body, he's physical, blah, blah, blah. It's like, when will people ever realize that God is trying to tell us about himself, and it's like you're trying to tell a child, well, it's this way, but then it's this way. My mom told me once, I told her, I said, Mom, I wish we lived at the edge of the earth. She said, what do you mean? And remember, I'm just a little guy, probably. I haven't even been in school yet. I'm just a teeny tiny guy. And I said, well, I would like to live at the edge of the earth so I could look out at the universe, at the stars. And Mom said, well, the earth isn't flat. There is no edge. It's round like a ball, like a basketball. And I went away and I began thinking about that. Remember, I'm about 5 years old. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to ask Mom about this, but I think I know what I'm going to do. If the earth is like a ball, that means the stars, we are in the middle of the ball. And this is the earth, and underneath is dirt, and up over top is the stars. And when I grow up, I'm going to go to the edge of this ball, and I'm going to open the door, and there will be a railing all the way around, and I'm going to walk all the way around, and I'm going to look at the universe from that railing. This was what I was thinking as a 5-year-old. Now, I took Mom's explanation and I readjusted my understanding that still kept what I originally thought. And that's my whole point of this. God is trying to say, how can I explain myself to finite people that are in a tangible, three-dimensional world when I am beyond their dimension? Well, I created you after my likeness. You have a body like I do. And I have a spirit. I am a spirit as well. I can be everywhere at once. And we don't get it. We're not supposed to get it. We're supposed to accept it. I've been to the coast, my wife and I, we had been to the coast, but over at the ocean there at the Pacific Northwest, we were planning a vacation and we were going to go to the coast. I told the kids, I said, we're going on vacation. We're going to the coast. And what's the coast? Well, that's where the ocean is. And so they had never been there before, and they were, well, I don't know, grade school. And so one day I heard the kids arguing. One of them said, we're going to the toast. No, we're not. We're going to the lotion. And they were arguing about this. And this is why we have so many churches in one Bible. Because somebody understands it this way and somebody else understands it this way, and they're arguing about it. It was laughable. We're going to the toast. No, we're going to the lotion. They understood our explanation only in terms of that which they had seen. And then they had a cousin who, when they were little, they thought they were going to the peach instead of the beach. Why? Because children that have not been there don't know what it is. So we have the Bible trying to communicate in human language something that's infinite, way over our heads. And it's God is trying to describe himself and his world and his kingdom and the principles of righteousness in terms that we can understand. So let's bring this to a conclusion. Give the Bible a fighting chance. There was a young man, his name was Don, and he said to me just what I explained. My mother died, painful death, cancer. She was a Christian and she never gave up her faith. I hate God for killing my mom. I didn't have an answer at the time, but I'd like to give it to you now. Don, your mother died, showing you what it means to live in faith, regardless of our circumstances. And in the resurrection, when your mom meets Jesus in the air, and he brings all of the resurrected and the living, those that believe him and obey him, those that trust him, bring him with them, all the saints, back to heaven to his Father. And she starts looking around. Where's Dawn? There's millions. So many you can't number them. She looks, she looks, she looks. She can't find Don. And then her angel opens the record book of her life, shows her about Don and his decision to walk away from God. And a pain and a grief enters her heart because Don is not there. I suffered in vain. Don, you will be the one to bring the greatest pain on your mother. Forget the pain of cancer. That was over. That came to an end. But imagine the pain that your mother will endure because you are not there. Now, where's your concern about the pain your mother must endure? Forget this world. She need not die and suffer in vain if you're there. It will be worth every expense. Reconsider, Don. And if you're an atheist and you have wondered about how a good God, how a powerful, all-loving God could allow suffering, that's a subject for another time. But I would invite you to reconsider that maybe the disappointments you've suffered doesn't mean there isn't a God. We're in a warfare. We're in a battle. We're in a war. Good against evil. There's going to be some losses. And I guarantee you the enemy shoots real bullets. He's there to maim and destroy and to cause suffering and pain. I invite you to reconsider. Maybe there really is a God. I'm just going to ask him to close this session with this. Father, some of us are struggling to know, is it really a God? I invite you to speak to each individual right here, right now. Give them opportunity to reconsider. Give them some evidence that they can have to give them something to grab a hold of. You know each case, and I give them into your hands. I give my life into your hands again. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Amen. There we have it, folks. I hope I've at least helped in this line of thinking. Is there a God?